Okay, Aubrey, this is lesson 5, multiply and divide rational numbers, starting on page 20. And it's pretty similar to what we just did. It's just obviously using your multiplication and division rules for adding and subtracting fractions and decimal numbers. To multiply two fractions, you multiply the numerators, then multiply the denominators. It's so much easier to multiply fractions than it is to add or subtract fractions because you literally just have to multiply them across, and that's it. You don't have to change anything. You may have to simplify the fraction or the product of the fractions, but you don't have to find common denominators or equivalent fractions to start. To divide a fraction, take the reciprocal of the divisor and multiply. So I'll talk about that in a second. To multiply two decimals, you multiply as you would with whole numbers. Then you find the number of decimal places in the factors and add. So you add up all of the decimal numbers in both factors. You just say, oh, there's 2 there, 2 there. So that means there needs to be a total of 4 decimal place values in your product. And I'll show you what that means in a second. Give the product that many decimal places to divide by a decimal. Move the decimal point in the divisor to the right until it's a whole number. Then move the decimal point in the dividend the same number of places and divide. So let's take a look at an example of each one of those. So the first one is division. So this is 4 and 5/10 divided by 1 and 25/100. So it's 4 and 5/10 divided by 1 and 25/100. Now you cannot have a decimal in the divisor. You can't divide by a decimal number. So I'm going to need to change this into a whole number. In order to change this into a whole number, I need to move that decimal place over to the right 2 times, which means I'm multiplying it by 100. So it becomes 125. And if I do that to the divisor, I have to do it to the numerator. So it's similar to like if this is, oh wait, it would be the other way around. If it were like this, right? So I've got to move this over 2 places, so that means I got to move that over 2 places. So now my dividend becomes 450, like that. So now I can go ahead and divide, and 125 can go into 450 3 times, which is 375, and then you subtract and get 75. And so then this would be 3 and 75 over 125, and then you could simplify by that to get a fraction, or you would put your decimal here and then bring it down, and 125 can go into 750 6 times. So your answer would be 3.6. So that's something to remember. Not only do you need to put that decimal point in the quotient, if you go ahead and put the decimal point in the dividend and then place a 0 behind it in order to bring it down to make your remainder into a decimal, but you do need to remember that if the divisor is a decimal, you need to turn it into the whole number by multiplying by whatever base 10 you need to in order to make it a whole number, but you also have to do it to the dividend too. However many places you move that decimal over, you got to do it the same to the dividend. All right, dividing a fraction. We've got 3/4 divided by 2/3. All right, so it's write the division as a multiplication using the reciprocal of the divisor, then multiply. Write the quotient in the simplest form. So basically what that means is if I have 3/4 divided by 2/3, this is the dividend, right? This is what is being divided. This fraction is the divisor, okay? So the second fraction is always the divisor. When you do this, you're going to take 3/4, so the dividend stays the same. You're going to change the division to a multiplication, and then you're going to find the reciprocal of the divisor. The reciprocal is just whatever you need to multiply it by to get 1. So you just flip the numbers. So it becomes 3/2. And then this answer is 9/8, which is equivalent to 1 1/8. So why that works, so let's say I'm taking a whole number. 2 divided by 1/2. So why it works to say, okay, 2 times 2 over 1 equals 4. I'm going to draw you a picture to show why that works. So if I have 2 whole candy bars, and I want to see how many times I can break that candy bar into halves, or how many halves I would have out of these 2 candy bars, I take the whole, this is one whole, this is the second whole, and I split it into half. This is 1/2, this is 1/2. I split this one into 1/2 and this one into 1/2. So basically what you're doing is you're taking each one of the wholes and you're multiplying it by 2, right? So 1 times 2 and then 2 times 2. So you have a total of 4 halves, right? So that's why this is why you're actually multiplying by the reciprocal, because that's how many pieces you're breaking it up into, okay? So, and then if you did it the opposite way, so if I had 1/2, divided by 2. So basically what I'm saying is if I have a half a candy bar and I split that into half or into 2 pieces, I have to split this into 2 pieces too. And what's this one piece right here? It's 1 out of 1, 2, 3, 4. So basically what I would do here is 1/2 times 1/2 equals 1/4. All right. So we just did that. So 2/4 divided by 3/4 divided by 2/3 equals 3/4 times 3/2, which then you just multiply across, you get 9/8, which is equivalent to 1 and 1/8. The mixed number 1 and 2/3 is equivalent to 5/8. Draw a picture to illustrate this. So, okay, here's my 1 and 2/3. Now this is 3/3 and this is 2/3. So together they equal 5/3, right? So that's what your picture should look like. All right, multiplying decimals. This is another one of my favorite things to do in math is multiplying decimals. I think it's just such a neat thing to do. And there's kind of 3 ways I teach this. I teach it in like a 4th grade way, a 5th grade way, and what I like to call a 6th grade way. So instead of going through, and we'll go through this once I show you how my different ways. Okay, times this. So you don't need to line up the decimal at all. So the 4th grade way is to just multiply these like they're whole numbers. So I'm going to take that decimal out for a second, and I'm just going to multiply like this is 514 times 23. So 12, 4, 15, 0, 8, 2, 10. And then I'm going to add these up. Okay. So my answer to 514 times 23 is 11,822, okay? So the 4th grade way I teach my students is you just count how many place values are behind the decimal in the factors. So there's 1, 2, 3. So then you start here and you count going to the left that many times. 1, 2, 3. So your actual answer is 11 and 822 thousandths, right? Another way I like to do this is 2.3 is you do that math like we just did. Okay. So then, instead of counting, which you can easily do to check your work, we know it's going to go there, you actually estimate or round both factors and then multiply to get your product. So I would round this 5 and 1400ths to 5 and this 2 and 3/10ths to 2. So 5 times 2 equals 10. So your answer is going to be around 10. Where would I put this decimal point in this number to make 11,822 around 10? Well, I would put it right there to make it 11 and 822 thousandths, and that's going to be about 10, right? So if I put that decimal here, that would be 1 and 1,822 10,000ths, and that obviously is nowhere close to 10. If I put that decimal point here, obviously not close to 10. Even if I put the decimal here, that would be 108 118 and 22 hundredths, and that's not close to 10. So it's kind of taking this in a step further by using estimation. So you actually multiply by whole numbers and then round and estimate what your answer or your product's going to be in order to figure out where that decimal point goes. Okay, and then the 6th grade way I like to do is same method by taking those decimals out, multiply by whole numbers, find what it would be, what your digits would be, and then actually thinking about place value. So you've got the lowest place value here is the hundredths, and the lowest place value here is the tenths. So hundredths times tenths equals thousandths. Okay, so that means the lowest place value in your answer needs to be in the thousandths place. So where would I put the decimal point to make sure that too is in the thousandths place? Well, that's a thousandths, hundredths, tenths. Therefore, my decimal point goes there. So in this work, I believe they're just saying 5 and 14 hundredths has 2 decimal places, and 2 and 3 tenths has 1 decimal place. Add those two numbers together. 2 plus 1 equals 3. So give the product that many decimal places. So then we've got that, right? So that's 1, 2, 3 decimal places. They just add them up. So this is like the 4th grade way. But whichever way works best for you and is easiest for you. But it is nice to know the other 2 ways, just so you can kind of think a little bit more deeply about multiplying decimals. All right, this next one. To wash 1 load of laundry, Antone needs 1/8 cup of detergent. If he has 3/4 cup of detergent, what is the maximum number of loads of laundry he can do? Write an expression that could be used to solve the problem. The question is asking how many 1/8 cup measures are in 3/4, or how many eighths are in 3/4. So the expression is 3/4 divided by 1/8. You're trying to see how many eighths can fit in there. So you're taking this number and you're trying to divide it by 1/8, right? So if you have like, here's my 3/4, you're trying to figure out how many 1/8 can fit inside that. So take the reciprocal of the divisor, which is 8/1, and then you multiply 3/4 by the reciprocal of 1/8. So 3/4 divided by 1/8 is 3/4 times 8/1, which is equivalent to 32/4, which is equivalent to 8. So the maximum number of loads of laundry Antone can wash is 8. Now that does not mean she has 8 cups of detergent. That means she has 8 1/8 cups of detergent, and she can do 8 loads of laundry. All right, so what is the reciprocal? So if you have 1/3, the reciprocal is 3/1. It's when you flip the numerator and the denominator. And basically what that means is like, it's whatever you would then multiply that fraction by to get 1. So if I had 1/3 and I multiplied it by 3/1, I would get 3/3, which is equivalent to 1 whole. So the reciprocal is like whatever fraction you would multiply your original fraction by to get 1 whole. Basically, you just flip the numerator and the denominator. How would you determine how many decimal places to give the product of the 2 decimals? Well, I just explained the 3 different ways. The easiest way is obviously is to count decimal places in factors. And that's how many go into your product. To divide a fraction by another fraction, do you simply divide the numerators and then divide the denominators? Oh no, to divide a fraction by another fraction, do you simply divide the numerators by the denominators? If not, what steps do you take? No, you do not. You multiply the dividend by the reciprocal of the divisor. Okay, so you've got quite a few problems to practice with. I would I would definitely do this on a separate sheet of paper. Make sure you number them so you can keep track of which one's which, or do them on another sheet of paper and then write your answer in here. So for example, for number 4, you can do 30 times 5. Well, what are you doing here? You're actually just multiplying by 5, so that's 15 or 150, but then you have to place 1 decimal there. So your answer is, and then just write it right in the answer. So you can do your work on another sheet of paper, just put your answers in there, because that's what I'm gonna be checking when I Zoom with you, is your answers for it. However, you wanna have your work with you. It might be smart to number them. So if like you got one of these wrong, or if we had a different answer, we could go back to our work and take a look at our work to see what happened. So do all of these on page 22, and then there's a lot here, but it should go fairly quickly, and they're all different. So I want you to practice each one of them. So go ahead and finish these also. And then make sure you Google chat me or email me if you've got any questions on any particular ones, and I can do a quick video for you or walk you through that.